So Jeff, what has been your reaction to the whole kind of upheaval of the last few months?
Well, I first saw Donald Trump. There was some reality TV show, The Apprentice. Just a few seconds of watching him and listening to him convinced me that he was somebody I did not want to know. I had absolutely no interest in him and his ideas. I found him repulsive, distasteful, just nasty, really nasty. After that, I didn't pay any attention to him at all until the presidential the race for the presidency in the U.S. was well along, and it looked like he was going to capture the Republican candidacy. Then I started to take an interest, partly in self-defense, because although my life is generally speaking very insular, I rarely leave the farm. I really just look after my square inch of paradise here and tend my gardens and look after my family and my pets and so on, and that's my life. I do like to kind of keep one finger on the pulse of the rest of the world. It's more for self-preservation. Like, I don't want to get run over by a runaway world. You know, I don't want to, if something's going to crash, I don't want to be under those structures that are now tumbling down. So I do pay some attention. So I began to follow Trump, and it soon became obvious that he didn't have a clue. He had no idea what truth was. You know, from my perception of him was that from his point of view, whatever came out of his mouth was true. Whatever came out of his mouth was important, and whatever came out of his mouth was absolute and not to be ignored or naysayed or in any way disproven. And also that he was merely telling people what they wanted to hear. He didn't have one single original or inspiring thought in the whole process. He merely told people exactly what they wanted to hear, and did it in a way that would elicit the most emotional response in his audience. You know, but you know, I still didn't believe that somebody as patently ridiculous and out of touch with reality as Donald Trump could become president of the United States. And then election night came around, and lo and behold, Donald Trump was president of the United States. My first reaction was, wow, that's great, that's fantastic, that's amazing. You know, I wasn't fearful. I didn't feel like the world as I knew it was going to come to a crashing halt. I didn't feel like something really terrible had happened. I felt quite liberated. You know, it was like, okay, now let's see what happens. This is going to be really interesting. You know, and sure enough, you know, he has just continued being the absolute moron and, you know, selfish megalomaniac that he was at the beginning. You know, he's one thing about Trump, he hasn't changed one little bit in this whole process. You know, other people have become, you know, kind of humbled by the awesomeness of the responsibility that they've taken on, becoming president of the United States, leader of the free world, and so on. Not Donald Trump. No, he has absolute confidence that if it's good for him, it's good for America. If it's good for him, it's going to be good for the rest of the world. End of story.
is Trump, we were talking about feelings earlier, following instinct, following feeling. Is Trump also following his feeling, some guidance, instinct, in your opinion?
Well, yes, there's a primal set of fundamental biological instincts that we have that have to do with self-preservation, self-maintenance, and keep maintaining this physical form and self-perpetuation, producing offspring. These kind of fundamental human drives are certainly present in Donald Trump. Then there's a spiritual counterpart to those drives, that lead us towards altruism, compassion, understanding others. And we can only understand others if we feel there's some fundamental connection between us, that there's something underlying all of our experience that's tying it together. There's some central source. And that, to me, is where Donald Trump has hit he hit the ceiling. Of course, like every other human, normal-minded human on this planet, he has a higher self. He has an unbroken connection with Source. There's no way we can be disconnected from the Source that gives reality to our experience, to our physical experience, our intellect. We have to maintain an unbroken connection, or we would pop like a soap bubble. And to us, death means a cessation of that connection in a physical term, like physical death. So even our physical mechanism needs, we have to keep breathing, our heart has to keep pumping. All of these processes have to keep working, and if you follow them all back, they all come back to the same place. In our spiritual life, that connection is always there. It underpins our whole experience, pulls everything together. I'm sure that Mr. Trump has that, but is he paying attention to it? No. What he's paying attention to is kind of a reflection of his, I would call it his midbrain, the mammalian brain, the brain that functions to make sure we don't die, the brain that sees a world as a collection of objects, the brain that organizes categories, creates a higher and lower and so on. If he felt any inkling of a connection to Source, he couldn't begin to spout any of the nonsense that constantly is coming out of his mouth regarding other humans on the planet, that he's, we're all sharing this planetary experience together. We are connected, for better or worse. It doesn't mean we have to like everybody that we meet, but we can't deny our connection to them. Those that have a higher understanding, or have a living connection with spirit, which they are tending with great care and taking great comfort in that, It doesn't mean that they shouldn't watch out for speeding trucks. If you're going to cross the street, well, look both ways. Can you trust that the divine will pick up the pieces if you get smashed? But yes.
But you'll still be in pieces.